So I've been wanting to make a video on VoiceMeeter for quite some time now, and it just so happens that VoiceMeeter just came out with a new update, adding a bunch of new features to the effects section. So I figured it's about time I put this video out there, making the video that I wanted to see when I was started out learning VoiceMeeter. If you're specifically looking for the newest features, just the newest features, I will not be covering that in this video. What I will do is go through the whole setup process from the beginning for people who have never used VoiceMeeter before. Timestamps are in the description if you want to skip the lecture portion of the video. But yeah, just get into it. So I've been using VoiceMeeter for just over 10 years now. And originally I wanted to learn VoiceMeeter as a software solution to routing audio for broadcasting and recording. I spent many hours watching tons of videos on YouTube, and eventually I figured it out. And when I stopped broadcasting and recording, I was left with this big blue shit on my screen, and I was wondering if I could still make it useful for everyday use and not throw all the hours I spent trying to learn this thing out the window. It turns out it's actually very useful, and I love VoiceMeeter. I use it every day, which is why I've purchased a license for it. And today I'm going to tell you all about it. My favorite applications. So what is VoiceMeeter? VoiceMeeter is an audio mixer, audio router. It's got some effects in it, la-di-da. What does it mean? Right. So we start off, right, with our audio sources, stuff that makes audio into the computer. Hardware is stuff that you plug in. Your applications, anything that's installed on your computer. Software. We can route both sources into VoiceMeeter, and they get broken out as such. So hardware gets assigned A1 to 5, at least in Potato. A1 to 5. And our virtual audio inputs get routed through VIO, VIO aux, and VIO 3. From here, this is where the magic happens. Right? From VoiceMeeter to our virtual cables, that's where our PC applications can get audio from. So we're running Discord if we're in games, Call of Duty voice chat, we got Audacity, we got OBS. They all interface with virtual cables. So with VoiceMeeter, we can decide for A1, let's say, how many sources we throw A1 to. So we can put A1 into B1, B2, B3, our headphones or speakers. We can have this playing on every source, or we can have it playing on just a few. And we can combine A1, A2, or any of the A's and any of the V's into any of these hardware sources or the virtual cables to be received by applications. We have a lot of flexibility here. Okay, so that's the general idea of VoiceMeeter. We'll get into some of the use cases that I use most often nowadays. Recording and broadcasting seems to be covered by a lot of YouTubers. There's a lot of videos on how to achieve this, but I'll go over it anyway. If you're broadcasting, let's say to Twitch, right, and you're recording as well through OBS, let's say, you have many destinations for where you want audio to go. You want audio to go to you, let's say your headphones, because you want to hear what's going on. You have your stream, what you want your audience to hear, and you have your recording. What do you want to push to YouTube? Let's say you're playing some music while you're streaming, and you don't want that music to go to YouTube. You want to put some different music on for reasons, right? You can decide, hey, I want to listen to music, and I want my stream to listen to music, but I don't want my recording to listen to music. And you can set that in VoiceMeeter. Let's say you're in the final round of a game, right? But you don't want to bring down the mood of the stream by pausing the music. You can temporarily opt yourself out of listening to music. You can still see what's playing, but you won't be able to hear it. So you can focus on your game, stuff like that. If you have a multi-PC setup for streaming, you can run VoiceMeeter on both computers and have them interact like a audio server, sending audio, mixed audio to your streaming PC to be picked up and sent through to your stream. And there's a lot of benefits to that. Saving money, probably the biggest. The thing I use most of all these days is for presenting, professional use. So if I'm in a meeting or in a class online, if I'm doing an interview through Zoom, VoiceMeeter comes in really handy. If I'm presenting, sharing my screen, and I only want to share a specific application window through, let's say, Microsoft Teams, sometimes Microsoft Teams will not allow you to send audio when you're only sharing an application window. And this can be very restrictive because I don't want to have my whole screen showing in case I want to pull up some notes. I don't want to distract from my presentation. I only want to show the window of my presentation. So the way to get around it is I can route the audio of whatever I'm playing through my mic. So I'm talking over my audio that I'm playing through, and I'm only showing the application window to my meeting members. It's not possible in Windows default. The other thing is two-factor mic mute, which I coined myself. You can mute the source in VoiceMeeter and not mute in whatever application you're using for communication, let's say Microsoft Teams, so that technically no audio is going through my mic, but nobody knows that I've muted my mic because it doesn't show that I'm muted within Microsoft Teams because VoiceMeeter is not sending audio through, right? And just in case if I'm muting myself in Microsoft Teams, sometimes I accidentally gets unmuted, I can rest assured because there's no audio being sent to my mic using VoiceMeeter. So it gives you that bit of assurance. And when used in combination with OBS Virtual Cam, now you have a tailored experience for your visual, your webcam, and your audio through VoiceMeeter. So it helps you to be more presentable, more professional, because now you can fine-tune exactly what people can see and hear. So now that you're sold on VoiceMeeter and you want to get started, let's go through the setup process. Couple disclaimers. The part that is hard to uninstall are the virtual audio cables, and I'll show you what I mean. So we open sound settings, scroll to the bottom, more sound settings, gives you the legacy device manager for sound, right? These virtual cables that are installed, these are the things that I find are difficult to uninstall. Now it's not a problem because I can just choose not to use them, right? But let's go back to Discord. Right? And we are deciding which device to use, you will have a bunch of extra options. So if you decide that you're done with VoiceMeeter and you don't want to use it, you just gotta live with a few extra options. Just something to consider. This is particular to VoiceMeeter Potato, where if you don't buy a license, the application will prompt you to purchase a license. VoiceMeeter Potato is the more advanced version of VoiceMeeter. It's more for enthusiasts. They encourage you to purchase a license for Potato. Every 5 hours, a box will appear with a countdown timer in seconds, and it'll stop you from using the application and may also stop your audio service until the time countdown is completed. You'll still be able to, if you hover in the right place, you'll still be able to scroll to change the volume, which is how I usually do it. After using VoiceMeeter for like maybe a few weeks, the stopping of your audio service will no longer occur. It will pause for maybe a few seconds, but then return. And then once the timer is done, you'll be able to use the interface again. So that's just something to consider with VoiceMeeter Potato in particular. I'm not sure about the other ones. I don't use them very often. If you decide that you want to purchase a license, you go to the old website, VoiceMeeter. You can go to VoiceMeeter Potato, click on the web shop, and you can choose what kind of contribution you would like to make. So you can choose just a fan, pay $10 for VoiceMeeter Potato, and you get all 3 versions, which I think is a fantastic deal, which is why I decided to do it. No, it's not necessary. And if you don't like those restrictions, you could always use VoiceMeeter Banana, if you so choose. Optional downloads. You can decide to install more virtual cables if you want. This is used for sending applications into the hardware section. If you want to have specific control over a specific application individually rather than throwing it into one of the mixes directly, you can do that using extra cables. The first one is free, and if you want to get more, you can decide to purchase extra bundles. I have purchased A and B, and I can show you how they work, how to use them. But one cable should be fine for most people. Another application that I find really handy is EarTrumpet. You can find this on the Microsoft Store or on GitHub. It is free. I downloaded it from the Microsoft Store. And it's really handy for changing the output source of applications quickly. And I'll show you what I mean when I get into the setup. So once you're ready to install, the links will be in the description. Go ahead, click download, save, and download to your computer. You have a bunch of versions of this for tutorial purposes. Now, once it's downloaded, I need to warn you. Once you proceed with installation, your audio on your computer will break until you change the settings. So I recommend you watching the rest of this video on like a different device, or watching the whole video all the way through and making notes of the steps so you can follow along until you fix your audio and return back to the video. Alright? Installation is pretty simple. Extract to wherever you want using WinRAR. I've already extracted it. Here's my file. Right click, run as administrator. Very important. It won't work if you don't do this. And you'll get a window. Follow the steps. Alright. VoiceMeeter does come with some virtual cables on its own, so everything you need is done just to get started. If you decide that you want to install the virtual cables as well, you want to do that now, so you only have to restart once and change the settings once. For the virtual cables, which I recommend you download since it's free, right, you want to navigate to the link, click download, save. It's the same process. You want to extract, open up the folder, and you'll find 2 setups. 64 is usually what people run as administrator. Go through the process, install everything, and restart your computer. And that's your virtual cable setup. Once you've rebooted your computer, first thing you're going to do is go to your sound settings. Right? So in system, sound. Now for audio output device, for default, you're going to want to select VoiceMeeter input. Okay? And for default input device, you're going to want to choose B1. Okay, so look for B1. It might be a little out of order. That's what you want to select. VoiceMeeter input, and B1. What this does is that by default, it's going to use whatever application you're running, it's going to use these two devices until you specify otherwise. And this is what we want, because we want to be able to decide which applications go where. So once you have these settings, you can now open VoiceMeeter. Right. First thing you want to do here, go to A1 for your hardware output selection. You're gonna want to choose whatever your computer audio is. So for me, it's speakers because I have a desktop. So the device is gonna show up as speakers, but it's actually playing through my headphones. Once you have that selected, you click A1 here under the VIO input. This is the device we selected here as our default output. VoiceMeeter input, VoiceMeeter input. See that? A1 will go to A1, which is our speakers, my headphones. Once you have set this up, your computer audio will work again, and you'll be able to see these levels go up and down as you're watching. When you return to the video and you start playing it, you can see these levels going up and down. This means your setup is working correctly. Now the rest of the video is going to be a little subjective, depending on how you want to set it up. I want to take you through my process and how I set it up, the way I use VoiceMeeter, and this should give you a great starting point to understand the interface, get used to it, so that you can adapt VoiceMeeter to your needs. Okay? So, first thing we're going to do, choose our microphone. See, I've chosen, you want to stick to WDM on all sources when possible. Right? If you're doing Bluetooth, it's probably going to make you choose an MME, multimedia. You will get a little extra lag, but that's the cost of Bluetooth. Right? Wires is the best thing. Anyway, we go to WDM and we can see our blue snowball microphone. So we're going to select that. I've already selected it, so I don't want to remove it. And as soon as it's recognized, we should be able to see the levels going up and down, which lets you know that it's working. If we select A1, this means that the mic source, this whole source, is going to A1, which we defined as our hardware output. It just happens to be our headphones. So if you want to listen to yourself talking, you toggle this on. A1 to 5 I use for my speakers and stuff. B1 is what I use, as we said before. We defined it here. This is our default mic. So if we're in a game, if we installed a new game, by default it's going to use B1 as our in-game mic, because that's what we've chosen. So if we have nothing selected on B1, no audio is going to our Call of Duty voice chat, right? Until we select B1. Now my mic is going to our Call of Duty voice chat. You get the idea. B2 is what we use for, is what I use for comms. So Discord, Microsoft Teams, Zoom. If I want audio to go to that, I use B2. And B3 is what I use for OBS. So if I want things to go to recording, or if I don't want things to go to recording, I can choose B3 on and off. Right? For any of these sources. By default, any applications will play audio through here. What I use it for is just my main application that I'm focused on. So a game, or if I'm video editing, stuff like that. I want to focus on it. That's what I put through. I let it be the default. Okay. For aux, this is where audio comes in from Discord or Zoom or Microsoft Teams. People are talking to me, that's what I want the source to be. Aux. VIO3 is the catch-all for just other sound applications. So I'll usually have music going here. You have video players, music players, your web browser, anything that you decide to throw in here. It'll get combined and put through this source. How do we go about configuring that? Well, let's start off with V1 is already configured because that's the default. So let's move over to V2 here. That would be an application like Discord. When we open up Discord and go to voice and video, we want to choose our input source. As we said here, B2 is going to be our comms. So we want to find B2 as the source. And that's B2. So now whenever we click B2, right, on any of these bars, that audio will go to Discord. Done, taken care of. Output source. We want to choose aux. Because as we said, aux is what we want all our comms audio to come to. People talking to me, I want to come through VoiceMeeter aux. So we find the aux option. Aux. Sorry, I can't read. Right, so that's Discord setup. And we can check if it's working by hitting let's check. So this part is going to get a little annoying. We can see the Discord is moving up and down. It is synchronized to the levels that are coming out of here because you have selected B2. Right? If I deselect B2, I'm just going to change B3 because this is what my OBS is recording to. If I turn off B2, we can see the test is now failing because we don't have any audio going through B2 anymore. But if we turn on B2 again, back up and running. So that's how it works. If you want to see if this source is running, select A1. Now I can hear it. You can't. If I select B3, which is going to my OBS, now you can hear the echo that I'm hearing. Right? So it's a little annoying, but that's how that works. If people are talking to me, I want to hear it, I press A1. If I want to talk to them, I press B2. If I want to loop their conversation back to themselves, I can select B2 on their Discord audio and then they'll echo to themselves. As of, fuck you. But yeah. This is all set up. We can stop testing. And we're done with Discord. Now you're going to repeat this process for any application that you want comms in, right? If we're setting this to comms only, you're going to open MS Teams, you're going to open Zoom, you're going to repeat the process, selecting B2 as their input source and aux as their output source. Once you've done that, aux is done. Let's comms. VIO3 is where we would put what I use for my music and stuff. So let's say I pull up YouTube Music here, right? I mean, technically it's my web browser, but we can pretend that it's a audio application, like Spotify. If you have Spotify desktop downloaded, setup process work the same way, right? So without EarTrumpet, we gotta go back to our settings and go back to sound. Scroll all the way to the bottom and go to volume mixer. Here you will see a list of applications that are active on your computer. You can see Vivaldi is here, which is my browser. Hit the drop down, and now we can choose our source. So if we want put music in VIO3, for our output source, we're going to choose VIO3. And our input device for my web browser This is for if I'm using Zoom through the web browser or Discord through the web browser making a call. Generally it doesn't happen, but just in case, it's going to be a communication, comms. So I want to select B2. So that whenever I hit B2, if I'm in a call in my web browser, it'll pick up whatever I select on VoiceMeeter on B2. Right? And so that's without EarTrumpet. But if we are to use EarTrumpet, this is what that process would look like. We go down here, open up EarTrumpet, and expand the view by clicking the top. This will break out all the sources that we have available to our computer. You can scroll down. Be careful where you put the mouse when you're scrolling, because you can change the volume as well. Okay? I keep it on the icons and scrolling is fine. Where we can see here, cable input, that's where VoiceMeeter, that's where Vivaldi is going to right now. How do we change this? By right-clicking on Vivaldi and hitting these arrows. We get this, once we do that, we get this menu, and now we can select VAIO3. And now you can see when we scroll down, VAIO3 has all these sources and our music. And we can check if it's working by playing music. As soon as I start playing music, these levels will go up and down. And if I select A1, which is my loud, if I select A1, which I've defined as my speakers, which is my headphones, I can now hear music and you can't. If I were to select B2, or if I were to select B3, which is my OBS, then you'd be able to hear music. Clearly I've paused it because I don't want to play music through this recording. So that's how you would do it. If I select B2, that's my comms, right? So that means my music will be playing through my mic, so I can now listen to music while I'm talking to my friends on Discord. So let's move on to OBS. How do we add sources, audio sources to OBS? Well, here's my OBS. If you go to sources here, you can see right now for this example, I'm using B2 as my mic input for OBS. If I deselect this, you see the levels were still moving even though you couldn't hear me because my mic was still sending audio to VoiceMeeter, but because I had deselected B2, audio was not being sent to OBS. Now this, to show you how I set it up, I'm going to remove this VAIO3. And you should still be able to hear me. Yes, you can. So we go back to sources, add a source, audio input capture. I've already created one. I'm going to use that. Well, when you make a new one and name it, you're going to have to go into properties and select the device. Default is not what we want, right? We want B3. So look for B3, and there it is. B3. So now if we go to Audio Mixer to see the levels in OBS, we can see nothing's happening because we haven't selected B3. If you remember, I've designated B3, all B3, to send audio to OBS. So if I select B3, now you get, that little bit of an echo. It's not ideal, but I'm just showing an example. If I switch it out, B3 and B2, you can see I'm still sending audio. Right? Because both sources are the same. Let's say I'm playing music again. Okay, let me do some white noise. I'm not sure how I'm going to get copy strike for white noise, but Let me monitor the volume before I play it to you. I'm selecting A1, changing the volume. Sounds good to me. All right, ready to hear it? Boom, there it is. So, I'm going to deselect this for now since I have it muted. If I don't talk, you can hear the white noise playing in the background, right? Move it over. That's because I've selected B2 for both sources, which means that my voice is being mixed with the white noise and being played together in the same track on OBS. If I unmute this track, making it available, go back to VoiceMeeter and I select B3. Now we have my voice in one track and white noise in the other track. This has the advantage of me being able to lower the volume of the white noise only without having to affect my mic, right? And just in case my explanation wasn't clear enough, I've mapped out all the controls here in this diagram. The interface is broken up into 3 sections: hardware inputs, mixes, and output sources. So that's how you have to think about it. These 2 sections are effects for your individual hardware sources. This is the volume, and this is where you select which output is going to. A1 to A5 corresponds to your hardware outputs. B1 to B3 corresponds to your virtual outputs, where your applications are reading music from. Okay. These are your mixes, virtual mixes, so your applications can run through here. Your effects and your volumes and your routing. Here you can adjust the volume of your hardware outputs. You can see here on the side it says, I don't know if it's clear. You can see here just above the level you see A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. These correspond to your hardware devices. B1, B2, B3, with the new names for the virtual cables, they now correspond to B1, B2, B3. And we've specified it, right? This would be comms in game. This would be Discord, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and this would be OBS. If you think this diagram will be helpful, I'll leave this on the screen for a little bit so you can take a screenshot or whatever, refer to it when you're learning the application. Couple more things I want to show you before I end the video. We haven't used the extra audio cable yet. If you had decided to install it, this is where I'll show you how to make use of it. So let's say I'm playing music through a dedicated music app. Right now I just have my web browser. But I want to separate this out from all the other sounds that I have coming through my computer from VAIO3. I want to have special control for my music. Well, that's where the extra virtual cable comes in, because if you noticed, you can select virtual audio cables as hardware input sources. So let's say I decide I want to use this cable for my music only. So I select this here. Now this whole section is dedicated to my music. I can add effects, can change the EQ, whatnot. Right. The last thing we have to do is change this output source. So again, if you don't have EarTrumpet, we go back to settings, go back to sound, scroll to the bottom, have volume mixer, and here we found my music player. We want to change this output the cable input. That's all we have to do. If you want, since my, music players don't generally have input, and since I'm using my browser as my music, if I ever do want to make a call, I want to use B2. That's because that's what I've designated as my comms. Right, B2. And now if we hit play on music, I'm just going to mute it. I muted it from myself by pressing A1, see that? So if I play music, now music is only playing through here and not through here, via IO3. So I can specifically control, add effects, all this jazz, to just my music. And then I can send it through B1, which is my in-game comms, B2, which is my Discord comms, or B3, which is my recording, OBS. Okay. So that's the virtual audio cable. So I hope you guys learned something over this video, even the intermediate users. This is what I've picked up over my years just for personal use. I know there's a lot of deep dive settings. I covered a lot of topics. If you would like me to go over, make a video on specific features that you want to see, like using the V-band. This is the audio server. If you'd like to see me learn the new features and what I think about them and how I use them for my setup. If you'd like to see me explain how to use OBS Virtual Cam with VoiceMeeter, let me know in the comments down below. And I hope this video becomes a resource for all the new users. If you guys want to troubleshoot, let me know in the comments. I'll try and help out. Yeah, have fun with your new toy.